Bachelor God, a book on absolute reality, by Alfred Aiken. Chapter 2, Beauty is Wholeness. What is beauty? Where does one find it? Of what does it consist? Is it material, physical, that which can be passed from parent to offspring? Is beauty the outcome of what you think, or of what you consume? Is it a general effect produced by your wardrobe, your carriage, your poise, your mental equilibrium? Beauty is none of the above. Beauty is not to be found in a body, a thing, an item, a composition. Beauty is spirit, life, singleness, love. Beauty is purity, wherein there is nothing foreign, alien, contrary, wherein there is no lack, no opposition, no otherness, naught that can mar, blemish, impair, or impeach omnipresence, perfect being, absolute totality, complete perfection. Beauty includes the universe of ideas, but is never found within one of its ideas. All ideas are forever within beauty, but beauty is unrelated to any and all of its thoughts, items, ideas, things. Beauty is, before ideas, bodies, can be, or said in another way, things, bodies, items are by virtue of beauty, being. Beauty is the soul I identity, life being the individual all. Beauty is the mind wherein ideas, bodies exist. Hence, said bodies cannot be the identity of the only one that is I. Never look to a body for beauty any more than you would look to a thought to find mind, awareness, intelligence. Beginning with life as I am will do more for you, dear reader, than all the cosmetologists together, for they would work over a body which is within beauty, but can tell you naught of the beauty that you be. Cosmetics, rouge, perfume, and the like are not synonyms for beauty, nor substitutes. There is but one beauty, the beauty of wholeness. Wherever you find any form, shape, or suggestion of unwholeness, you are beholding lack, limitation, separation, destruction, duality, impurity, adulteration, ugliness, but with which or what mind? Certainly not the mind that is intelligence, the sole self you be. This mind cannot behold, know, understand, perceive, or experience any unwholeness anywhere, ever. Awareness is being itself, the alone I that I am. This infinite intelligence, this conscious one, is absolute in its omnipresent omniscience. If this were not so, then incompleteness would be the norm, ignorance the natural function of intelligence, oblivion the natural state of all conscious life, lack the substitute for substance, the unwhole, unholy, one, the stand-in for the whole, holy, one. These absurdities are obvious. Bachelor means one, and that one non-dependent, non-connected, non-related, single, entire, self-contained. Truth must be now and forever single, whole, absolute, free from the need of another, contact or relationship with another, knowledge or understanding of another. Should mind, truth, the soul omnipresent, all-inclusive, one infinite life being I, conceive, perceive, know, admit, or concede otherness, regardless how microscopic or for what reason, in that instant, infinite purity, unadulterated, changeless, intelligent truth would have perished forever. Hence existence and all it includes would have ceased to be. The I that I am would not be I. No I identity would exist. There would not even be a nothing, a negation, oblivion, for there would be naught with which such seeming could be compared whereby to establish a starting point of identification, classification, presumption. Beauty is not a matter of physical adornment, an arrangement of color, juxtaposition, balancing, shading, measurement. Beauty has naught to do with things. Beauty is not that which can be developed, evolved, assimilated, or obtained via a process, a formula, a purchase, or by giving attention to internals or externals. Beauty, as already pointed out, is truth itself, the sole identity life consciously joys in being. Life is spontaneous. Life is bliss in total action. All of life is consciously operative, functioning all-inclusively. This awareness that is life itself omnipresently, being omniactive power, is beauty, wholeness, the absolute self, it, I, is. To this one, alone, all, there cannot be even a suggestion of otherness, another, more, less. Hence it must be obvious that only this one life that is here now as the sole conscious substance or includer of every thought, item, idea, thing, is the only one that can be I. There is none beside to be aught, either another I, greater or lesser, or a sub or super I, thus giving to the single, indivisible, inseparable one a dualistic nature, a split personality, a double mind that can be aware of what is and also of what is not. Only love, life, spirit has the capacity, the ability, the substance, power, and intelligence to be I. Then what chance would any seeming human sense have in trying to make itself one with God? How could such an impure, weak, dualistic, confused, ignorant, divided, dependent mentality or soul evolve within the presence of pure, unadulterated light, to the point it would become that light? Can darkness evolve in light, ignorance in intelligence, disease in health, poverty in wealth, many in singleness, and death in life? Can creation go on in omnipresence, which is changeless completeness already? Can superstition hold sway in truthful awareness? Can dishonesty flourish where honesty is? Can lust, appetite, hate, fear, domination, control, manipulation, and poverty even have a hearing, much less any semblance of existence where totality is the absolute and unaltered, unalterable conscious fact? How many individuals can there be when one alone is the all-inclusive one, beside whom there cannot be another? How many are being I alone, where infinite intelligence is absolute, single, pure, without the possibility or ability of more? How many of the self, you, I, be, do you look to, admit, behold? If more than one alone, which is infinite, then you are not operating in the realm of sanity. To attempt to be more than you be is certainly insanity. Truth is never crazy, never out of its mind. Truth is forever mind itself, being the I truth is. It is only when you would assume an I that is not I, then try to educate, evolve, improve, and progress such an assumption, declaring it represents all that truth alone is, are you in difficulty. Every possible phase of evil, sin, disease, darkness, suffering, lack, humanity, evolution, and death stems from this nonsense. All of it is off the same bolt of ignorance, an assumption of another I identity. It is this other I, so-called, that education, religion, civilization would attempt to protect, succor, save, and evangelize. Dear reader, there is no other I. There is no need of trying to help, heal, or succor such a would-be I. The whole of it is a fraud, and is not yourself in any respect, is not your identity, not your being, life, nor in any sense your obligation. Let go of it altogether. No longer dwell upon its needs, wants, desires, ambitions, frustrations, disappointments, failures, sins, age, background. Waste no more effort or thought over its diagnosis or prognosis, its past or its chances in the future, its responsibilities or obligations. How is one to stop dwelling on the human body? How can one be free from that which he has cherished as being closer than a brother, closer than his very skin, that in which he has lived all his waking and sleeping hours, that which he has been taught to believe is his very existence, life, identity, his sole habitat, his only possession that he can be sure is his? Certainly one cannot be free of such teaching, indoctrination, conditioning by attacking it, nor by suddenly deciding to walk out on it. Such attempts but carry it along with one. Any quarrel, no matter what guise it assumes, and hatred of or love for the object works the same way, causes one to cling to the illusion, keeps it uppermost in his thoughts so he can operate, function, think, in any terms save of it. One can be free, however, and already is, in truth. No longer fear or consult the past, but find out the nature of truth, spirit, mind, the soul self that is forever I. This means absolute honesty with truth. It does not mean that one can share truth and the human assumption, that is, cannot share his attention, his awareness, his identification with or as a body, and also concede that spirit alone is all. One needs to give to truth all the honor, glory, power, presence, substance, entirety, selfhood that belongs thereto. This is simple, but it is not easy, for until one so begins his every thought, admission, he is still in the throes of his teaching, education, conditioning. No, it is not easy, but it is simple. Body is but an idea, a thought, item, or thing in consciousness. Consciousness, awareness, aliveness is the self you be, but it is always intelligence, life, spirit, substance, mind, reality, awareness, consciousness that is being the self. Never is it body, thought, idea. Body, things, ideas, thoughts are but items that consciousness conceives, perceives. The very body you've been taught is your private affair, your private home on earth, or until death do us part, the gift given to you or lent to you by God and brought into being by the biological act of your parents or artificial insemination. That body, along with all the other bodies existent, are but ideas, thoughts, things within that very present consciousness that is your sole identity, being, self. It is to that conscious life that you be that there is a body, bodies, things, but to that intelligent, undimensional self that you be, that is being I, you, no item looks or seems as it does to your educated sense. What we humanly, or thanks to conditioning, see as solidity, matter, flesh, and bones, a personality, gender, and so on, mind beholds as idea only. There is no dimension to the thought, body, thing, as infinite, intelligent, conscious awareness beholds it. At first this may seem difficult to comprehend, see, admit, but that is only because we still insist on beginning with the old conditioning, the habit of deduction from cause to effect. We still cling to our preconceived or educated sense testimony instead of beginning with untrammeled, unlimited, unscathed, uncontaminated reality. Who, among all those you claim to know intimately, begins with infinity always? Do not most of your friends, acquaintances, business associates begin with what religion has taught, what education via their senses has to say? Is not your world but following the pattern that has been going on for centuries, with a few modern improvements, a constantly shrinking world, a zest for minimizing every known item, a splitting of the atom and breaking it down to the smallest known particle of matter, which scientifically is reported to have the incredibly short lifetime of 1/10,000 billion billionths of a second? This, dear reader, is classed as a major advance in our understanding of the fundamental particles. What of the magnitude of being, the infinitude of life, the changelessness of truth, the forever nowness of omnipresent I identity, the all-inclusiveness of the universe within this very mind that is the sole self that is I? How totally present is this one? How much do you admit of your identity, life, supply, substance, being? How pure and undefiled is your singleness, or do you still insist on being wed to the body, to a personal identification, to evil, want, lack, fear, privation, biology, evil and good, right and wrong, death and life, come and go, ebb and flow, to opposites that are constantly warring one against the other? Do you still cling to a past and feel that it predestines the future, that your course is laid out for you, that until it is time, or your number comes up, or God sees fit to take you home, or the old machine wears out, you must plod along, that you are a physiological machine or a psychological entity whose end is certain, even though hoping its soul will find an eternal resting place? No, dear reader, so long as you begin with aught that you have been taught relative to the body as being your identity, or even that the soul within such, the spirit of life purportedly dwelling for a time within that frame, so long as you begin therewith, you are merely continuing the grind, the routine, the repetition of all those who have supposedly followed that bent. There is no truth in any aspect of it, regardless of how serious, how profound, how sincere the teachers were who passed along their babblings. Only truth is true. Only life is alive. Only reality is real. Only being is being. This is fact. It cannot be changed. Truth is changeless, omnipresent, indivisible, forever. There are never two ways when it comes to reality. Reality is unmovable, undeniable, unchallenged, conscious being, omnipresently being, all-inclusive. This leaves none to challenge, deny, oppose, nor does it leave another way that can or need not be chosen. To truth there is no way at all. There is being alone, all, the one, self, wherein no time, no dimension, no alteration can occur. Now, alone is the eternity of omnipresence. This precludes measurement, or any so-called mentality that wishes to discover and chart smallness or largeness, for infinity is without dimension forever. Yes, to begin with truth only means but to stop starting with what you have been taught to see with the eye, hear with the ear, feel via the senses of humanhood. To begin with what is already true does not mean that you are called upon to make truth become true. It is so already. It is for this reason you are urged to begin with fact, not the fiction of smallness, matter, manhood. To start with the undimensional leaves no lack, no ignorance, no human sense anywhere. To start with reality leaves none of the problems of poverty, time, worry, anxiety, or a suffering organic body. It leaves you instantly free of the past, the future, of sins of omission and of commission. It leaves you no longer the helpless victim of confusion, ignorance, stupefaction, limitation, but you behold that here and now there is only infinite, intelligent, conscious awareness that includes the whole universe. This reality has not fallen afoul of bad times, a suffering market, the threat of war, the conviction of enslavement, whether of nations, families, old age, disease, humanhood, or what. Omnipresent mind is here and now complete, untouched, unchallenged power, wisdom, supply, perfection. This does not mean that we can humanly switch allegiance from our body to truth, expecting truth to give us all the things we've expected from the body. It does not mean that our wants and our physical or material wishes or appetites are to be filled by mind, so that we will find the body is still a grand resting spot. Truth knows naught of your educated sense of body, hence cannot and will not satisfy your educated sense appetites. Truth is self-satisfaction itself, hence in truth there is naught yet to come, naught still being waited for. But there is present here and now total reality, supply, goodness, satisfaction, perfection, reality, allness. What more can be desired than all? Is aught missing from all? What is your concept of all? Do you behold the correct definition, or are you expecting that all will pervert itself in order to supply what you lack, provide more for a starved appetite, bring about a satisfying of lust, eliminate poverty, enable you to dominate and subjugate others, develop the human ego, and increase its sense of accumulation, which is its means of having a prosperous, successful, and worthwhile existence? Repeatedly, we have emphasized the need for beginning with the allness of all. Just what does this mean? How does the so-called sufferer, the one in torment, in fear, in a consuming hell, do this when his problem seems overpowering, too heavy to bear, too severe to tolerate any longer? One never attacks error of any sort, nor the seeming cause of the problem. One cannot reverse cause in order to obtain a more desirable effect. Such nonsense is in line with general education, human assumption, metaphysics, but has naught of truth in it. Truth does not have to reverse aught, deny aught, change aught, bring about aught, develop aught, channel aught, evolve aught, wait for aught. Truth is already omnipresently true, and only truth is true. Even as only life is alive, only consciousness is conscious, only existence exists, and reality alone is real. On the same unchallenged basis, the fact forever abides that only the I that I am is what I am, who I am, how I am, and wholly the one I am. There can be naught beside, naught less, no degrees of being, of self, of I amness. Truth never has to rid itself of what truth is not, in order to be the truth that truth is. This holds good for every other synonym meaning spirit, soul, love, singleness, aloneness, I amness, self, being. There is no divisibility, no separation, no wait, delay, struggle, attainment, evolution possible. All is already present in its allness, which is changeless forever, total forever, entire forever now. Time is not involved, does not exist in omnipresence. Where you have now, you cannot have time. When you assume you are dealing in time, you are not dealing with truth. It is a common practice in education, whether formal, religious, or self-acquired, that all good is hoped for, meanwhile sprinkled with a heavy seasoning of time. While one avidly declares for omnipresence, he presumes it will take time for reality to work, to appear, or be. Thus, he denies reality at the outset and wonders why it does not work. One need not expect to find that error, ignorance, fear, privation, darkness, and stupidity give off the same glorious sense of self-satisfaction that reality experiences. One need not expect to find that humanity is the same as actuality. One need not expect to discover the singleness of being by probing into nonsense, denying fact, obliterating truth, adulterating purity. One need not assume that affluence is the inevitable accompaniment of manhood, lack, impurity, oblivion. The absurdity of starting with that which is not real, and then being astonished that one seems to reap a bumper crop of the error he begins with, should be patent. Error in the premise must appear in the conclusion, naturally. To begin with a mistake means one is working in darkness instead of light. To devote yourself to absurdity is to become a master therein, a specialist, but this does not reveal the nature of being, of truth, of reality, of self-identification, joy, bliss, harmony. He who would enjoy perfection should begin with the nature of being as being is. To look for it in that which totally ignores, repudiates, denies, eschews truth is folly, if not downright culpability. Spirit alone is truth, soul, being, reality. Therefore, to know the self as that self eternally now is, one must admit reality to be real. To deny or to ignore fact is to remain in darkness, and any effort expended within such confinement must be negative, finite, frustrating. To turn to truth merely that you might right what appears to be wrong or unpleasant within the finite experience is to attempt to misuse reality for personal gains. Such an effort will fail, aside from what may seem to occur due to the faith you have in your procedure. But, regardless of that faith, sooner or later you will discover faith lets you down, your system fails to pay off, and disappointment will loom large upon your horizon. Truth is not an escape hatch for the human sense. Truth is not intended as a means of making the human sojourn a pleasant one. Truth is not intended to, nor can it set man's house in order. Truth will not grant to the human a sense of plenty, perfection, power, authority, or act as a compass whereby the finite mentality can steer a more accurate course through the labyrinth of fear, trials, turmoil, and terror. Truth is absolute. Truth exists to reality alone, nay, is reality itself being. Truth does not deal with otherness. Truth is not that upon which one can lean. Truth is not a bulwark against evil, sin, Satan, or hell. Truth is not a healing agent, a pacifier, an anodyne, an insurance policy, a means of gaining a ticket of admission into heaven at hand or afar off. Truth is singleness, that alone one self being wholly that self, everywhere, now, and changeless forever. Truth is not human, nor does it know or include aught that is human. Truth knows naught of man, creation, evil, Satan, a fall from grace, a wicked angel, time, decay, change, or death. Truth has no past, no future. Therefore, it never had reason to bring forth prophets, a son who was to be a Messiah, or one who was to reiterate reality and lead his people to a promised land. Truth is omnipresent singleness, which is unchanging reality, all-inclusive being, pure unchallenged fact, indivisible and inseparable wholeness, which is the alone identity that is I now. Beside this one I self, there can be no other I, no other state or condition, life or being, identity or existence. This one alone is forever unwed, unconnected, and unrelated to another, whether less or more. Consciousness is altogether pure love. No adulteration can be in action. There is no other mind, attitude, state possible where all alone is, and all is alone one, whole, total, complete, absolute. It is this whole self that is being I, that is I being, that is. There can be naught changed herein, for now is omnipresent omniscience, the infinite, single, conscious aliveness all aware. When one begins with fact, he then beholds what already is perfectly and wholly harmonious, present, self-satisfied. He beholds that spirit is the sole self that is I, and this leaves none beside, hence no human or man-lack sense possible, no changed state, no need or possibility for evolution, improvement, decline, or growth. He beholds there is no devil, no evil, no sin or penalty, no guilt, no death, no past or hereafter wherein he is to be judged. He beholds that already truth is true, and there can be no weight, no struggle, no cross-bearing, no crown to be won. He beholds that there never was a moment when truth failed itself or began a coexistent state with its absence, evil, Satan, a fallen angel. When one starts with fact and admits that truth is fact right now, that it has not changed, not altered its total, single, all-inclusive, one individual selfhood, hence is the alone I existent, he cannot have a human background, a nebulous future, a lack-laden finite identity or experience. All lack, humanhood, is precluded from reality. Beginning with fact instead of fiction, one can and will do the sensible thing in what may still appear as his everyday experience. He will not try to change for the better that which seems obvious to his senses. He will not try to heal, alter, or improve aught in the human economy. He will not deal with sins of omission or of commission, morality, systems of improvement, denials or affirmations, causes or effects, time, prophecy, age, and so on. He will leave the so-called human alone and devote his attention to fact only. The sensible thing will be that which seems the best move to make, but not based upon what one will gain by it, or what one may possibly lose by the move. It will merely be what seems expedient at the moment, for knowing what reality is, he sees that his relative decision actually plays no role in truth, hence cannot affect being as it is. He who would attempt to do the sensible thing by beginning with the situation, that which confronts him as a problem, cannot succeed in being sensible. Why? Because if he should begin with the problem, he is starting with the error, with his fear, misjudgment, his sense of values is involved. He places an importance on the outcome. He is pressured by the need at hand. In other words, he is working wholly with the finite, trying to improve, better, solve the situation. Where is any of this going on? Only within the so-called realm of nonsense. Whatever conclusion he arrives at, or whichever direction he takes, he will merely continue along the old line, within the same ditch, with the same threatened disaster. All error is false. No error has continuity. Whatever appears to be transacted within such a framework is futile, for it actually is non-existent in truth. No one can do the sensible thing in his seeming everyday experience if he starts with the seeing of the eye, or the hearing of the ear, namely with his sense of being human. Only when one begins with reality, which is the whole self I am already, does one see that he is not subject to the finite, not connected therewith, hence not in bondage to fear, worry, attachments, or the relationship of marriage that education would imply or condition him to accept. No one is wed to matter, a physical body, a human ancestry, a history of physics, time, evolution, or chance. No one is subject to evil, Satan, or a god. No one is subject to others or to a finite sense of self. No one is wed to a personal mind, a national origin, a federal obligation, or the certainty of death. The sole one that is omnipresent life itself, the alone existent I, is not one of two, is not related to another, but is single, pure, whole, entire, all. Within this mind that is I exists all items, things, ideas, thoughts. Each is being now conceived, perceived, and is known, identified within this one self only. None beside exists, hence no other mind can know, identify, or declare aught concerning any idea where it is, what it is, why it is, or even that it is. Only infinite intelligence can do this. Only the I that I am knows the I that I am, and all that is included within this I. This does not leave a finite I to know aught, not even its own folly, for there is no small, no finite, no human or personal I at all. How then can a brain declare that you are ill, unhappy, weak, growing old, a male or female, an American, German, Russian, a member of the human race, poor, frustrated, and all the rest of the nonsense of so-called evolution? It cannot. Many people insist on working for God, doing all they can to bring truth to the attention of the masses. They are sincere, earnest, self-sacrificing in their endeavors. But does truth know aught of this seeming activity? The Church would say it does, but truth makes no such declaration. Why? Because to truth there is no other presence at all, no other one. Where truth is all, and there can be nowhere all is not, no additional one exists to be convinced of the oneness of all. All precludes otherness. Who or what can have truth brought to its attention? Remember, only truth is true, and truth is all, the single, indivisible, inseparable, unconnected, unrelated, pure one. Truth is undimensional totality, entirety, hence never wed to aught, never aware of more or less than itself as absolute, conscious, omniactive awareness, inclusive of its thoughts, ideas, things, items. This admitted without evasion, without reservation, without human reasoning that hopes to make something of it, or in some way profit via truth, leaves one free to do whatever seems sensible on what appears to be an everyday basis. Under no circumstance can one be sensible as we mean the above, unless he admits the entirety of omnipresent all as being all. This leaves no otherness, hence no would-be mind to declare or experience such. Whatever seems to require attention, then, can be attended to without fear or trepidation. Beginning with the allness of all, one needs not expect profit or good to emerge from the activity he may appear called upon to perform. Under no circumstance can what is be altered by his temporary move. Because this is so, he is left free to make the most sensible move demanded, still rejoicing in the fact that naught can change, the ever-present state of single allness, the sole I-self, infinite existence being. Frequently, however, those who devote themselves to God's work grow utterly desperate and miserable when others do not properly support the work, nor the worker. Such a one will loudly protest that he is not looking for aught for himself, is not doing his work on a personal basis, but doing it wholly to help the other fellow, and because he feels he is called by truth to engage in the work. His actions belie his words. He is not doing the work for truth because truth is already all, and naught can be added to it or taken from it. As truth is already perfect, whole, entire, everywhere, what is left for the worker to do? For whom is he engaged in the effort? For the personal sense of self only. It is for this reason that he complains, finds fault with others when they do not support the work. Had the worker actually begun with one infinite all, he would not be in the quandary of looking to others for support of any sort. The mere fact one is disappointed, frustrated, worried, resentful at others is evidence that to him all is not all. None can be frustrated, in trouble, have a problem relative to truth when one begins wholly with truth, consistently remains persistent therewith. The problem is always the question as to what to do to meet the lack, the finite sense, the trouble, the human situation. To truth, none of this exists. He who would do the sensible thing, but starts with what he wants to do, or with plans that he assumes are right, is still in the throes of human planning, human opinion, human endeavor. Any such so-called sensible move is prompted wholly by his senses, and all such service is predicated on lack, a need, a requirement, the world's answer to its seeming quandary. When we begin wholly with one omnipresent all wherein no lack, no need, no otherness can ever be, we do not climb out on a limb in God's service. We do not go into debt. We do not try to stir up a support for a center, an establishment, a lecturer, a system, or aught else. This does not mean that one is not willing to pass along the good word whenever the opportunity seems propitious, but he does it without a sense of concern, without a feeling that he is making it easier for someone else. He does it spontaneously, freely, but without obligation, without a feeling of duty, without that aura of having virtue go forth from him, having done good in the name of God. Should one desire to open his home or his office to those who wish to come and talk truth, that is fine, provided he has first started with the allness of one total spirit, the alone self, wherein there can be no sense whatever of another. Then he will not be looking to or depend on the income he may derive from this seeming occupation. However, if he has argued with himself that the world is in a seeming dream, darkness, need, and that he has the answer through truth, therefore he will make himself available, and for his services they, the world, his customers, shall contribute toward the upkeep of said home or office, he is bound to come to grief in the long run. Why? Because he is beginning with otherness, a need, and the wherewith to meet that need. This is not being sensible, but is wholly prompted by his senses, his reaction to his world, his own pressing need for self-expression, a niche he can call his own. Beginning with truth, one will discover there is no way in which profit can come, nor any way in which profits can come. Both are the same, for both depend upon time, development, the past, wherein the need for such become evident, and the promise in the future wherein that need will be met. All profits mean an adding to what is already present, an accumulation, an increase of good or goods. The profit also brings the same promise, the assurance that in the future, should you invest your time, talent, attention, endeavor in the plan or promise he offers you, then you will benefit, be rewarded, have more joy, happiness, security, protection, good, than you could possibly have otherwise. Both require time. Both will pay off tomorrow. Both deny, ignore, overlook, or are blind to the fact that only omnipresence is, and that all of all now eternally is operative as this sole, single, individual, infinite self I am, that all of is, am, be, and that none of this entire being can ever become more or less, for it is already all. Herein is no wait, no delay, no mañana, and no yesterday wherein truth was robbed of its omnipresent totality. He who starts ought will be frustrated if he does so on the basis of being a human, the basis of an increase, an improvement, a betterment. It is this very attempt that makes so many question truth, deny that it works, and argue that the absolute is too difficult to be practiced in today's business. These comments are absurd. The reason the business venture came to grief is because it had its foundation on a need, a lack, a human scheme of business, that wherein supply and demand are one. One what? One lie. To omnipresent truth there is no need, no lack, no demand, no cause, no effect, no profit. Truth is being what it is because truth is what truth is, the very self that is, the awareness that I am. Nothing can come from another because of another, or by virtue of there being another. Truth is not wed to otherness. Business, as seen from the human basis, is altogether wed to lack, need, otherness. Without such, no trading could go on, no exchange would occur, no traffic would operate, no value would be realized, no profit would accrue, and the business would collapse for want of support, or due to bad timing, or selection of a product that was not as much in demand as assumed. But in truth, one does not do aught for any reason or reward, attainment, accomplishment, procurement. Rather, we begin with fact because it is fact, all, total, complete, here and now. Naught more is yet to come. All already is present, self-satisfactory, absolute. Things, thoughts, ideas have no value, so are not a medium of exchange, nor can they in any way profit mind, their conceiver, perceiver. There is no traffic with thoughts, for there is no other mind wherein all ideas exist this instant. The ideas, thoughts, have not a history, a past when they were conceived, but are present this absolute now as new, whole, perfect, complete, and never before were. Why? Because omnipresence is, and you cannot apply a past to now, nor a future. Every idea is being conceived, perceived, this moment, and there is no time, hence no past tense, thus no idea, thing, body that exists could ever be related or be the cause of another thought, idea, body. Only mind conceives, perceives, thinks, knows, imagines every idea, thing, item, body. No other mind exists at all. Hence there is no other to know aught, or to stop knowing aught, that has believed in time, or that will believe in time, that misunderstands ideas, things, or that can understand ideas, bodies, things, or God. There is only truth, consciousness, being, the absolute all-self, I, and none beside. When this is the starting basis of business, one does not watch the come and go, the seeming exchange of items as action and operation, but rather he is enjoying the changeless totality of being. It will seem to such a one that business is thriving, but he is aware that the only real business is the business of busily being the eternal one all-inclusive self, wherein there is no personal or human, no other mind at all. He sees that mind being all leaves no competition. Competition is based on a degree, comparison, divisibility, separability, being only a portion, never complete. In human business, there is always the effort to complete the pending transaction, even if it is a mere selling of a quart of milk, a yard of ribbon, the disposal of a house and lot, selling a political candidate, a bit of philosophy, religion, music, entertainment, or a pound of flesh. In truth, none of this detail of things exists. Only reality can be real. Only life can be alive. Only all can be. And this leaves naught more to be desired. Should one open an office or any sort of place because it has seemed sensible, thanks to an absolute awareness that joy alone is all, he will not look to or expect another to support his move. Rather, he will look only to mind as mind being. The attempt to justify false or human moves is rampant. The seeming evidence is mute testimony as to where faith in the venture was placed. Had one begun with reality, trouble could not be victor. Such only occurs where there has been a battle, and all warring is human, never divine. Error at the outset will loom large in the conclusion. Truth never fails. Error never succeeds, even though it pretends to raise hell. Should one suddenly begin to feel sorry for himself, decide he is in everyone's way, or that it would be better for all concerned if he stayed aloof, this is based on the argument that as a human he has such power, force, and influence that he can stop God, all, from being all. Yet such a one will wildly declare he is doing it because he is unselfish, is concerned only with the work, or is so sincere in truth's allness that he is willing to forego, deprive himself, sacrifice himself for the good of the many. This is the same reaction, the same emotionalism, the same incentive that drives the mourners to lament in public, or the scribes and Pharisees to appear where they may be seen of men, and only then to rend their garments. Verily, as the Bible so poetically puts it, they have their reward. But there is no truth in any of this, no virtue, no genuine honesty. It is all emotionalism giving vent to itself. But where is such going on in mind? It is not. One cannot be wed to humanhood, or to its methods of procedure, its concepts of what is or is not sensible. One must begin wholly with entirety alone, for therein there can be naught beside, and then, when one does the sensible thing, it is because he is not concerned with the seeming outcome, nor is he giving the thing, the action, the movement any value. He is not anxious as to what profit his performance will bring, or over the result should it seem to come to naught. He is aware that the seeming outcome in no way interferes or changes the changeless fact of being all that is I, the whole I, and there being naught more than this, all that is entire. As this is permanent fact, undeviating reality, eternally now that which is I, there can never be a reason for trouble, a problem, whether called time, history, hate, lack, humanity, evolution, confusion, duality, otherness, devil, a fall from grace, or what? Singleness is the alone one, unconnected, unrelated to another, for there can be no other where all undimensionally is all. This wholeness is beauty. No unwholeness exists to mar or blemish isness.